Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction, and glad to be here. I think what Ayush, Susmit, and Huddle and team has pulled off here is probably one of the iconic events for India. And full house at 10 a.m. This is Filecoin and Huddle deserve all the credit. Massive event, and I'm grateful to be here with all the amazing people who are supporting this ecosystem and getting to the next level where we see all of these builders. I think a lot of people are here for the hackathon and workshops. Everyone who's here has some way or in some way or other been supported by someone at a very, very early stage. They say that signs of success is when you get extremely early support. A painter, a musician, anyone has much, much exponentially higher chance of surviving and succeeding if they get that early on-ramp support. And I think everyone who is here with me today has been doing this in some form or other. Let us look at, I think there are a ton of builders here. How can you really, really be a part of a community that one of these people runs? And we will start with the introduction, although I don't think anyone here needs an introduction. But let's do a very quick 1-minute introduction to see what they're doing, and then we'll delve deeper into how the startup ecosystem is being built right in front of our eyes, right? Awesome. So let me start with Gabriel.
Yeah.
You can introduce.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gabriel. I'm the managing director of Tachyon. So for those of you that don't know, Tachyon, thank you. First time in India. So excited to be here. So thank you for having me. Tachyon is an accelerator for the most ambitious founders in Web3. We've been around since 2017. I'm the managing director and founder. We've backed over 90 companies that have raised over 150 million at close to $1 billion in valuations. Phenomenal founders and companies like Huddle01, Powerloom, Spheron, Nuo back in the days, now Geno, I guess. And myself, I've been in crypto professionally since 2018, but I'm a previous 3-time founder, 2-time EIR. I've built venture scale companies. I've built Innov1 companies. If you can name a company at this stage of my life, I've probably built it. So yeah, excited to talk to everyone today.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Denver. Everyone knows what you do in India, but still.
Yeah, I think like intro would be redundant at this point. A lot like, I just, you guys had to, hear me speak for like 10 minutes just before this. But yeah, like at Devfolio, like super excited to back all of these young builders and, help them go from like, hackers to founders and like, help them across their builder journey.
Thank you. And again, Suhas.
Like you mentioned, I think super excited to be here along with a bunch of very interesting ecosystem folks. I'm Suhas, part of the product folks, which is India's largest product community. Early this year, we realized to scale Web3 apps, what is also super important with building with developers is also to concentrate on how products can scale, right? And that's where we launched the product house. This is, think of this as a learn, earn, build community for anyone interested in the Web3 space. We're about 50,000 strong, but we're just getting started. So do check us out. Join in if you're interested on any part of this journey.
Awesome. And Raghav from Longhash.
Great. Hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Raghav. I'm part of the investment team at Longhash Ventures. And Longhash is a Web3 investment fund as well as an accelerator. We started our journey as an accelerator by partnering up with the ecosystems and helping projects within those ecosystems scale from 0 to 1. And we are proud to have supported projects like Huddle01, A-Star, Akala, Balancer, and many others through their journey. And I think we take a lot of pride in not just helping through the investments or the aspects, but most in terms of how we can add value to the companies and to the projects we are associating with, and how they can eventually add value to the entire ecosystem. And really glad to be here with all the panelists and looking forward to our discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. So what we've done is we've just been going around and asking people, what do you want to ask all of these people on the stage today? And India is a very different market in that sense. There are a ton of developers who are building really amazing stuff here. But the common questions that we keep getting from everyone here, and when we talk to founders, generally from an ecosystem perspective, one question resonates very, very highly with all the Indian builders out there, which is to the fact that how do we, let's say, in the same vein as Huddle, how do we go ahead and what do these first 3 months look like to build a global product? So from India, we have few products in web3 that are now going global, whereas mostly web2 Indian startups were really great, but they could not take that leap, right? So today, all of you, I think, have worked with so many startups and founders out there. If you were to give one advice to all the Indian builders on building a company with global standards in mind and a global target audience in mind, what would that be, one thing that you can say?
Yeah, I'll give an outsider's perspective. I think my esteemed panelists can probably answer that question much better, being from the area locally. But I get this question a lot from founders, and the advice that I always give is don't try to build a global company at the outset. Start small, find a passionate group of users and customers, and build like crazy for them. When you start building an early product for a small group, first of all, as a smaller startup, you're off the radar. Nobody's paying attention to you, so it's a great time to experiment and try a lot of different things. As you start growing and scaling, as your ambitions grow into a much larger TAM, as a global-sized company, you'll start finding ancillary markets around your core user base. And the great thing about crypto and using crypto primitives is you can incentivize those users to really drive your K factor, your virality, as soon as you start finding product market fit. So, the objective is not to build a large global business or platform out of the get-go. What you end up doing is you end up becoming something for everyone. That's not what you want. You want to target a very specific set of users and solve a very niche or specific problem for them, and then start to build a feature set around ancillary markets as you scale up to becoming a global platform or a global business. And Web3 primitives can really help you like add rocket fuel to that. For those of us that have built companies in Web2 land, as you start looking at like your CAC and LTV models, you can really blow the roof off of your unit economics as you start layering in Web3 primitives. So that would be my advice.
That's awesome. So if I were to summarize this, what you are saying is pre-product market fit, you are relatively less known, go and experiment, but experiment with a specific set of niche users. When you achieve PMF, you go wide. Okay, that's amazing advice for everyone. Denver, what would you tell these people? How do we create more polygons? You've seen InstaDapp and you've seen a lot of companies go global from here. How do we find 10 more polygons from this crowd?
I mean, Polygon is like Polygon, and these folks are, most likely, they're outliers by far, but then what I do believe they have set the stage for a lot of other folks to, follow in their wake. And I think so there's no one size fits all answer here. What's really key, adding on to what Gabriel mentioned, is that when you're early, your users are going to come for, one key differentiator that you have or one key thing which makes you use your product, right? And you see this in your Web2 companies as well. And even more so, that's more true in Web3. The thing with Web3 is that it's just, the good thing is that it's inherently global by nature. So even if you start and you build from India, you're essentially also building for a global audience, even if you're not trying hard to. But then even in that, then it's probably good to, maybe when you're starting off, solve that for a very specific set of users and then, go make your, way down to a more generalized, product. So one of the examples, Huddle has done it pretty well, and it's just inherently cool, right? When you can, just connect your, PFP and it appears on, so that just hey, who's going to use Zoom anymore? I'm not a boomer. Might as well use Huddle. So, once you kind of get those things, and then, I think that's where, Huddle is sitting and, solving those hard technical problems, which are very underrated. I think that's something valuable to do. And this is something that even other companies that we have seen, really break out, even like Instadap, they started out as solving for extremely specific problems, like just as a dashboard to transfer your, your loans, just from Compound to, just from MegaDAO Compound, and that solved for that specific set. But then as they went along, they learned more, and then now it's like a pretty much one-stop all DeFi platform. So, yeah.
So if I were to take away what major thing for everyone here, would that be solving really hard technical problems?
That would definitely give you.
Definitely. So that's the route to go global. Suhas, how do we take all of these people global?
I'll probably just add on, I think they've covered most of it, but something very interesting that both Denver and Gabriel mentioned, and for a lot of young builders, right, from who I see in the audience today, we see the Polygons of the world, we see the Instadaps of the world, that is what they are 3, 4 years, 5 years after building, right? They are at day 30, we're all at day 0, day 1 when you're starting off. Their journeys would have been very, very similar to yours, right? So compare your day 0 to someone's day 1. Sometimes it becomes very, very difficult. You feel the FOMO, right? Today, we're in a hyper-connected world. There are going to be conferences like this. They've existed in the past. They're always going to be there in the future. But we're all connected via Twitter, so it feels like, some of these big companies are everywhere. How do I market to, so many people? How do I onboard thousands of users? They didn't start like that from day 1, right? They're here after years and years and years and years of effort. Like, we've heard stories where Sandeep, for example, one of the co-founders of Polygon, he used to be at every conference, hustle his way out, right? Today, yes, he's on the other side of the table, invited to a lot of conferences, but he was exactly like, you guys, somewhere part of the audience growing. And maybe Denver can also tell you how Instadap, right? Right from the day, they've hustled their way through, right? So that is one advice I'd love to just, add on to what they said is everyone starts from ground zero, and yep, we're all in the building journey together. So yep, lots of people here to help you, support you, make the best use of it.
Awesome. If I were to, just pack that up, it would basically mean that don't look at short term, look at long term first, because it takes a lot of time. It seems in crypto like everyone's launching $100 million company or token overnight. But those are not the ones that survive, right? The ones that survive have been there for 5 years, which is what is considered a good time in Web2 to be at least in the market and survive to have a reasonable shot, right? And that applies to Web3. Sorry, no easy money here is the takeaway from this. Work hard if you are hard. That if you work hard, then this works.
In fact, when we hosted Sandeep, this is exactly what he said, right? Exactly your words on that. Hey, forget, concentrating on the short term. You all need to be there, do it for 2-3 years. Lots of young folks just getting started. Don't worry about it. Like, it feels like everything is overnight on Twitter, but the story behind the scene is like, there's tons of effort that's been going on. Look at that as well, right? So exactly what you mentioned is what he had put in his words.
That's awesome. And I think Longash is doing quite a few accelerators with Filecoin. You have your venture fund, and you have your late stage. How do you see Indian builders, more and more of them, really thinking and aiming at a global target audience, and how would you think that they should go about it?
Right. Yeah, I think we've been focusing on, what developers are trying to do for a very long time. And I think we, at the end of the day, need to focus on the very fundamentals, which is what is the problem that you're trying to solve, and how do you solve that? So, first of all, the problem identification is very important, and that's where Web3 and Web2 are very different. If you look at Web2 startups, quite a lot of the problems are localized problems, what you experience. So let's say you're facing some particular problem in the city of Bangalore, and then you come up with a solution that can help solve the problem. But in Web3, quite a lot of problems are very, very global. It's easy to cater to problems of people facing in some other country very easily. So you need to have that mindset that it's not, your objective is not to solve a very local problem, but your objective is to solve a problem which is much bigger. And in today's world, it's very easy to be able to solve that. So I am working out of India, and my entire team is globally distributed. And like all of here in Web3, we have seen quite a few teams have like that culture where you have to go to office, meet with everyone, then do work, right? It's completely globally distributed. So I think that mindset should tell you that you don't have to be restricted to a very small area. You have to find the audience based on the problems and then cater to that. So your audience could be geographically distributed, but their problems could be very similar, and that's what you should be focusing on. And for me personally, when I first entered Web3, as a user, it was not a very good experience. It was very difficult to use so many decentralized applications, be able to bridge tokens here and there. So I think entrepreneurs who are thinking of building in Web3 need to focus a lot on the user experience, which is not very great right now. And we are slowly progressing towards a much, much better user experience. But I think that is something that everyone should be thinking about, so that we could see that mass adoption of Web3 happening in the near future.
That's amazing. Thank you. So if what you said essentially is, even if you're building from Bangalore, your target audience might be in, let's say, Lisbon. So you have to study that consumer, and you have to really understand their behavior, and not just look at your local market as something that you can serve, right? That's a great, and I think we need to make that UX change faster instead of slower, right? So that's a great takeaway as well. One of the things that we've been seeing here when we look at Indian builders, right, and extremely good tech talent, very ambitious, very hungry, all great signs of a founder. One of the things that we've observed a lot of times is someone's building for a problem that's not going to get them at more places, right? Mostly what we are seeing is people come to us and say, hey, do you have an interesting problem that I can work on? Because I have the skills, I want to do something. Is there something that's really, really a bottleneck? Like he said, UX definitely, and I think a lot of people are working on improving the onboarding UX. That's a very apparent problem out here. And all of you deal with maybe hundreds of startups every month, and you see these larger macro trend lines saying, okay, here, this is a problem in infra, this is a problem in DAOs taking off. It would be amazing for all of these builders to have one problem that you are personally excited about, each one of you, and maybe someone will come run with it, build something out there, and approach one of you guys and say, hey, let's do this together, right? So what is one problem in Web3 that you are personally excited about?
Yeah, well, first, my counter answer to that is don't build a company to solve somebody else's problem. Like build a company for a problem that you know intimately. Because in the absolute worst case scenario, at least you solved a problem for yourself. I've been building companies since I was 17 years old. My formula has always been starting with solving a problem that I wanted to solve, that I was having. I built Tachyon as the accelerator that I wanted to go through when I was a founder. It looks like me, it talks like me, it walks like me, it's the problem that I was having. So that's my first piece of advice. But to answer your question, the thing that I'm really excited about right now is I'm really hoping crypto is going to start touching the real world, and that we start getting outside of our crypto bubble. So I'm very excited about real world use cases. In particular, like I've been spending a lot of time, so we just launched a product called Sigma Pass, which is an ERC 721. It's your passport, your identity, and your reputation into the Tachyon ecosystem. So whether you're a founder we've previously backed, or an investor in our network, or a mentor that's worked with one of our startups, you're issued an ERC 721, and then your reputation as you work with our founders starts to roll up. It happens off-chain, but we roll that reputation on-chain. And so we launched a new product at DEF CON called Sigma House. So this is like, think of this as like a distributed Soho house. Like basically a house that you can stay at, you can meet other founders at. It's exclusive. You have to have a Sigma Pass in order to get access. So like real utility, like this touches the real world, right? And so like thinking through, what I'm obsessed about right now is how can we use crypto primitives, Web3 primitives, start to roll up reputation, start to roll up identity, and start to unlock real world use cases that touches the real world. So that's one example, but again, don't take my advice. Go build something that you're really excited and passionate about. Solve your own damn problem, right? Like, I guarantee you'll stay in the fight for as long as possible and go through all the tough challenges that you're gonna have to go through in order to push through.
So don't ask
I'll
us
just add
for problems. Figure out what you're passionate about and solve it, right?
Not even passionate about. You don't have to be passionate about.
Yes.
What's your problem? What are you experiencing that you're like, you know what? I need to solve this. It's something that you cannot stop thinking about. You've experienced it yourself because you'll know the customer experience intimately. You will know what to build for them because you have it.
That's awesome.
I thought I'll just add on to this. If Gabriel hadn't said that, that is exactly what I would have said if the mic came to me. But only one point that I'd love to bridge between what you mentioned and what I 100% agree with what Gabriel mentioned. From where Pareen mentioned, right, what a lot of y'all can start with is start contributing, right? What Gabriel mentioned is, hey, if it is your problem, you'll be a lot more passionate, even if the market, changes, if at all, there will always be ups and downs in any founder's journey, right? So your passion will help you through the lows, right? Through the ups, it's very easy, momentum pushes you through. But if you are excited about the problem, then at least through the lows, you'll go, deeper into the problem, you'll go longer in the journey. What a lot of y'all can start with, sometimes young builders have not really faced too many problems, have not experienced, have not seen too much. What you can start with is start contributing, right? In Web3 especially, there are tons of DAOs. You can come contribute permissionless, right? You don't have to worry about anything. And in fact, picking off from that idea, we're launching something called Build With Us, right? Essentially, lots of people putting out their ideas. It's a very famous concept that Y Combinator does very often, but for Web3, right? So saying that, hey, you have an idea, you put it out there, someone can help come contribute to it, right? So I feel like that's a great starting point. Not everyone needs to start with this big idea. Come contribute and eventually you'll figure out, okay, hey, this is the problem statement that I am more excited about and start a company in that space. So just wanted to bridge between.
So I just want to add one caveat too, something that you made me realize. The problem that you start out with, it might change over time, it might evolve. So like the Huddle One team, when they first joined us, like they were passionate about building RTC, like a fully decentralized backbone with RTC implementation. Their initial go-to-market and the problem that they were trying to solve ended up shifting and changing. But the core mission that they were on shifted and changed. Or like CoinShift, they started out trying to solve the problem of treasury, or not even treasury management, excuse me, payroll for crypto and Web3 payments, which was a terrible idea at the time. I told them this is not going to work. But they were passionate about trying to find like payments through real-world use cases and via stablecoins or via cryptocurrency, and they shifted over to treasury management. That became a much more viable business model. So I just wanted to add that caveat. It's not a micro problem. You might start that way, but like there's an obsession that you have a thing that you want to solve for.
That's amazing. And what you said makes a lot of difference because everyone's not ready. You discover these problems. It's not possible to one day sit and say, okay, I'm going to work on this problem. So till that time, keep contributing. There are amazing projects around here and every builder can learn from that. Denver, would you like to tell us what is the problem that you want everyone to solve?
I mean, to be honest, like, just what, was just said. One thing is that, so one of the problems why people generally ask this question more so from Indian builders is that Indian builders unfortunately are not consumers as well or not users of crypto as well, just because how things are currently set up in the country. So there is some distance between them and the problem. So my advice would be to spend enough time in the space before figuring out, okay, here's a problem that I'm really excited about, and then going and trying to solve it. And even if it changes in the meantime, that's completely okay. And also, like, start contributing, like Suhas mentioned, if you're not, and then figure out the real, be in the community, be in the space to figure out those problems. Personally, I think, so my view of crypto is like, and Web3 in general is like, more long-term. I do think there'll be many cycles to come and go before we see like, true, adoption, because people will only use something that's useful for them. And there are some certain 0 to 1 projects that are already being built, and like, so for example, in payment, something like Juno, like, hey, I have crypto, I want to use it in the real world. That's cool. NFTs, again, what Gabriel mentioned, very interesting for reputation. For DAOs are very interesting because, like, I mean, in India, we have had like this sort of co-organizing or co-governing sort of tradition since a while now. You know of like you might find it funny, but then I think of DAOs as something like cooperative societies or something like, what would a Amul DAO or something be like? It's just like infrastructure for, coordinating people, which is great, and I think would be very interesting to see how Web3 brings value to that. So those are some key things I think, people could look into solving.
Wow. So essentially, spend some time in the space, discover your problem, and then go after it relentlessly. Raghav, any problem that you are personally excited about?
Yeah, I think quite a lot has already been covered, but as everyone mentioned, in order to be able to solve a problem, you should first be able to face that problem. And the only way that you're going to start facing problems is first you start exploring Web3. Quite a lot of problems which are being solved by people who started using these products and faced quite a lot of challenges while using them, and then figured out, okay, I need to do something about it. And that's why I keep on insisting on problem, because the approach to problem solving could be very different. For example, you want to, let's say, solve scalability. Now, the approach could be a Cosmos approach where you have application-specific chains, or it could be a roll-up layer, or it could be a Polkadot framework. There are many ways to solve a problem, but having that understanding of the problem and then the trade-offs of each of those approaches is very important. So I think that's very important for all new people to understand, that it's not just about building the best tech, but it's also about using those products, understanding the current pain points, and then seeing that how can you build something much, much better and that will add more value to the end users. At the end of the day, everyone is here just to bring value to the users. So it's essential to have that user-centric mindset, that you have to solve the problem for the user. Like, you could also be one of the users, as Gabriel mentioned, that you need to have that passion that I want to solve this problem. But yeah.
That's awesome. So you just filled color to what they said. Essentially, the idea is to spend time in the industry, but use the apps as well, because like Denver said, there's a gap. All of us are not able to use the apps as easily as some of the other country builders out there, but no one's stopping. We can still at least try it out, contribute to some DAOs, and then go after the passion relentlessly. So good puzzle piece. I think we are up with the time, right? So we've already overshot the time. It was amazing talking to all of them. I think we are all going to be here happy talking to all the startups out there. And thank you for giving some amazing advice. We could have carried on for 2 more hours for the next time. So,
absolutely, and huge shout out to our host, Pareen. I think they're doing an amazing job. Everyone at Huddle, Filecoin, thanks so much for putting the stage together. Yeah, huge shout out to the audience. I think this is going to be a very, very exciting week. And then we're here with ETH India. I think a bunch of us doing different events. I'm sure we'll see all of y'all over the next few days. But thanks so much for coming in a full house this early morning. It is very, very exciting to see all of y'all. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.